Okay, hello friends. It's Nora of Rock Your Life here, your source for holistic health and well-being by yours truly, me. 20 years plus, still going strong. I want to welcome you to my Unlock Your Truth video series. I am excited for you to be checking this out and see what's all going on in this self-exploration series. I'm going to be glancing down at my iPad as we go, so just to let you guys know that I'm doing that. Helps keep me on track, and there's a lot of information to cover. Okay, so before we dive in, I wanted to go over a little bit of my intro of what I feel is important for you to hear about this video and my future ones. But first and foremost, this is a workshop style. Of course, it would be great if we were doing some sort of webinar and interactive sort of question and answer sort of situation. But I like this because you can go at your own pace and watch it when you want to, break it up, whatever you need to do. Of course, I'm going to suggest actually sitting with the question and writing it down, and I encourage you to do that because it will cause something called free writing, which basically you just start writing intuitively. You get a lot of answers, and sometimes you write way more than you thought. Okay, rather than running around, driving around with all these different random thoughts in your mind. It's just different. Okay, so think of it like focused workshop classroom, like you're in school, right? Like the Earth classroom. Okay, so what is Nora doing that is so different than the personal growth teachers, mentors, coaches out there? Okay, right? Very good question. If you did not really look on the page of what this is about. So basically, the way that I'm doing it, not only workshop style, of course, a lot of people do that, is I'm going to be giving personal examples and stories. I hope that you can follow because they're very detailed. And I'm going to be talking about my before mindset and my after mindset. And then I'm going to give you practical, easy tips, even if it's just one thing. Okay, so it's basically, it's not only just the format of that mindset, but also my unique life experience, of course, my professional training in holistic wellness as an esthetician, and also just overall holistic scope, mind, body, spirit, wellness. And then my self-defense training, if any of you have read anything about it, in the Israeli self-defense system of Krav Maga, okay? Not the fitness part of it, the self-defense drills, realistic based, okay? So I wanted to find a way of how I was going to integrate that into my business, and that is holistic health, okay? So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So I want to share with you, everybody has a story, right? And mine's very long, but what I wanted to say is that just overall, there's all these different things that you can learn, right? But if I go back and look at what actually, worked and helped me, of course, my willingness to grow and never give up just on the personal growth path, right? And understanding I can find the answers inside myself. So a lot of, while it's prayer, intentional meditation, talking, all of those sorts of things helped me. Really writing and asking questions to myself, like that really helped me a lot. And then learning the other skills, right? Human behavior and all those sorts of things. So I want you to know, while it's really cliche in saying that you are not alone, you are not alone. If you don't have somebody there physically, at least you have yourself, right? And you can talk to yourself. But another way of asking yourself to be helped is, show me how to fix XYZ, right? How to make this situation better, or bring me somebody in my life to help me overcome this, okay? And always when you come from love, and if you want to use the word manifesting and creating your reality, always come from love in your heart to grow yourself, and you will be given these things, okay? So I want you to know, and I'm willing to meet you where you're at. I have that patience, okay? I do not think I am better than anybody else. I do not think I am so evolved that I know everything. I've just learned a lot of different tools and tips, techniques for myself to survive and thrive every day. It's either be depressed or change my ways. And that took a very long time to realize, because from that point, I would say from 12 to about 20, 20s, like really when I really started diving deep and, interacting with people. So it really challenged me to kind of learn how to deal with them. So I want you to know that you might feel like you are alone, but you are not, okay? That's why all this social media and stuff, been going on and helping people. Okay, this is the part before we dive in that I want to address. Okay, so first steps, adopting the mindset going into any changes in life. And that is, okay, adopting the can and I will mindset. So you walk away from all this today and you don't do anything, but you remember I can and I will, okay? And maybe that means you'll just come back and listen to the video another day when you're ready, okay? Because there's a lot of things, different support for you. You might even just listen to this and say, I just need to contact Nora and I just need to talk to her, okay? And it's gonna be a very slow process, but it's okay, you know? So even if we just talk once a week or once a month, you will feel progress, okay? So you should book for that Get Mentally Fit session if you want to address a specific area, because these video series are going to go a lot and expansive all over the board. And so if you're like, hey, I just can't shake this one thing, that's what you would get that for, okay? So adopting the can and I will mindset. You also, I would recommend, find a way to deal with your negative thinking, okay? Because we're trying to accomplish something, right, on this journey. So find a way to deal with your negative thinking, your vocabulary. It starts actually with vocabulary, which is why I said I can and I will. But every time you get the negative thought, if that doesn't work for you, you could use stop, the word stop, over and over again. You could get a rubber band on your wrist, make sure there's enough elastic for it to get your attention. You could pull it every time, snap it on your wrist every time. There's many other things, okay? So I want you to find a way. Now, when it comes to negative thoughts, a kind of little fun exercise, and this has to do with energy, is that, for example, let's just say the negative thought is, I don't want this person to get mad at me when I approach them about this issue, right? So flip it. I will get a positive response. They will be open to listening to me. That's just an example for everyday living that I think works really well. Only focus on what you want, not what you don't want, okay? You've heard a lot of these things, maybe these things too that I'm saying before, but I'm saying it differently, right? Because we do recycle a lot of information. I've just taken and studied from all over my years, everything, and, you know, tweaked it to myself. Plus, I'm a writer. Okay. Being able to talk to yourself, like I suggested before, you know, what do I need to do learn from this situation? Because you'll hear me say it again later, that depending on how you view life, we are all teachers of each other, is how I look at it, and each is providing a lesson, right? So you will hear me talk about this later on, or maybe in my other spiritual psychology series, is learning about patterns in life. So just try to move forward, that even if you're frustrated or you're dealing with difficult people, there's always a lesson through it that you needed to learn, okay? For your soul. That's another area to talk about. Okay, so what does this mean to unlock your truth, right? I'm just using different verbiage, that's because out there's a lot of stuff, honestly, that annoys me and that I think is overused, just like empowerment, even though they are very appropriate, right? Overcoming fears, your highest potential, I get it. But I want to use something different because here I am with black sheep outside the box, unconventional person. And that's what all my therapies came from, okay? And so a lot of you don't know my story. Again, I'm going to say this because we're going to revert back to this, that my story kind of began at 12 years old, okay? So what I want to say is that unlocking your truth, basically you will hear out there in the personal growth world, programming and conditioning. We have been programmed and conditioned to believe XYZ, right? All that we are saying is that outside influences affect our perception of the world. We create our reality based on our perceptions, right? So we have all these factors going on that is going to cloud our sense of what we feel is true for us, right? And I will go through examples to explain this. It'll make more sense. Maybe you already get it, but that's what I mean, right? But some people are like, my truth, I didn't know I had one. What is that? I'm explaining right now. Okay, so we take all this information that we learn, and that's how we find out what our truth is. That's the process, right? Life experience. Sometimes I feel like people that are older than us, if they did more storytelling, we would understand and get it more. There's all these different quotes in there, even things I thought, that's true, right? And then some stuff I was like, well, I don't really understand that. What does that mean? and self-love, and you should love yourself. And I didn't really understand and get that. It's like somebody saying you are pretty, or you are beautiful. That's cool. You think that. I don't think that. And so along the path of self-worth, this is how I know what I know. Okay? So we have a distorted view of ourselves, how people perceive us, all these sorts of things that you end up finding are false. That's what sucks. But you had to learn that. Okay, on happiness, starting with on happiness. This is not a final destination, people. Okay, I've kind of thought about this too. We must maintain and sustain it because we will have emotional ups and downs in life, right? Okay, so we think though that our happiness, we determine our happiness based on what's happening outside of us, right? Instead of creating it with ourselves. Again, this is kind of confusing, and I will explain to you later that for me, I've realized that becoming happier inside, I became happier as a result of overcoming my negative thinking about myself. I am disgusted, and I think it's very ridiculous how much of my life I've spent feeling negative about myself. But I have to forgive myself for thinking that because it's part of the process, right? So most of my life, I want to say like 30 to age 30 or 35, and I'm almost 43 now. So it's like, oh my God, it took me that long to like accept, and now I feel like I can move forward in my life, like actually liking myself. Like that's, I don't know, like I said, it's ridiculous in my opinion and experience. Holistic talk. We are going to begin here. And the reason from my experience, like I said, mental health is a huge part of our emotional, spiritual, physical, mental well-being, the scope of umbrella holistic health, okay? If you look it up yourself. But we don't always address it in our country. If people knew the statistics of our mortality rates on loneliness and social isolation compared to obesity, you would be shocked. Okay, you can look that up for yourself, and it makes sense, right? I can give you a personal story of how that would happen, even in the situation with my dad, who, long story short, living in Alabama by himself, he had told me, which he was a person for a long time, right? Again, worth in somebody else, that he told me he did not know if he would last long living there by himself. Okay, that doesn't mean that he's going to kill himself or anything like that, but how would that happen? Mini heart attack, okay? Just an example. And I will talk about this more, how do I know this? But you will find out, or you've heard stories of broken heart syndrome, all these sorts of things that don't really explain somebody that was a completely healthy person, okay? We don't know all the answers. I am just saying that I know what is my truth, okay? And I know my dad, okay? So I know him, and I know for a fact about this loneliness thing, okay? I know what it's like to feel alone, and that is part of my story. Again, 12 years old, even growing up with him, he changed the way that he was, but at that time, he was calling me stupid all the time, and I had temporary thoughts of suicide, okay? That's why this topic is very sensitive to me and spawned a very closeness with the first responder industry, which why I'm doing that entire series of that, okay? Suicide prevention and stuff. I don't want those people killing themselves. I don't want to do that stuff. No, but seriously, like, those people help us, okay? I want to help them and be there for them. Okay, so let's go brief on this holistic health again, and you can research it for yourself, okay? So most of my background, again, as an esthetician, black sheep, holistic was not popular and in style. So I needed to find ways to assess the body and the skin when people came in the treatment room, not just slam a bunch of peels on their face, you're good to go, and then it's coming back again, right? Because of their digestion problems or whatever it is, medication that they're on, birth control, all these sorts of things affecting, okay? So the oldest recorded healing systems, Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine. You can go look them up. They explain a lot of things that are going on in the body, inside, physically, everything. The liver is notorious for holding anger. You can look up all these different things, meridians, chakras, all of that sort of stuff, if it makes sense to you or not. It's not really an esoteric thing. There's lots of things that can be proven, okay? And functional medicine therapists, they're doing some different trainings and stuff in the Western world to incorporate, all of this, because now, there's scientific proving there's different ways to test pressure points and things like that. Them being linked to the different organs. Okay, so you seek for yourself. Why I'm also bringing up holistic health, right? We said a mental health and emotional health is a huge part of our well-being, okay? That's why I'm talking so much about worth and our soul and our life calling and all of that stuff. If we don't find it in this life, what affects our happiness and what happens to our soul, okay? So I need to address that. I need to address the colon. Some people will say it's the first or the second brain. I say it's the second brain, okay? So this would explain why you or somebody when they are anxious, have the runs, right? Or it could be the opposite. You are constipated and don't go at all. So that's me in my situation, why I have to do flax and aloe vera every day, okay? And not having enough fiber, but also that's where we hold our stress, okay? So that might be foreign to you. Again, look it up. When you look at alternative practitioners and how they assess the body, holistic practitioner, naturopath, homeopath, all these different people, right? We look at all aspects of the model. Okay, good to go there? Okay, so seek for yourself those systems if you're interested in proving it, disproving it. What the hell is Nora talking about? I want to look this up, okay? And then you will find out how you can heal yourself, plants, botanicals, all this stuff before prescription medications, which we will not talk about today. Okay, so let's look at outside influences. What I'm going to be doing is, so I think I told you I'm going to be talking, and then I'm going to give a personal example, and I'm going to try to help you. I hope you can follow me, because it can be very detailed. It's a very good example that I need to show you, because all these things I'm sharing you is from personal life, okay? So look at the outside influences that we talked about, right? Authority-based figures that tried to regulate us, okay? So it's parents, government, teachers, cops, doctors, society, media, family, organized religion, friends, significant others. All of these people regulating us, sharing with us their truth, right? We talked about this already. Okay, so that model, disciplinary model, which I consider as old ways, we can leave that behind, okay? That's what I feel in my choice, because I believe in choice. You can't tell me what to do, how to live my life, and all of that. I am a Leo, people, so it's part of this nature too. I am well versed in this area, okay? So disciplining, look back historically, what they do to you to keep you in place. No, spanking, beaten, isolate you. All these number of things that historically they have done to get people to do what you want. It was a do what you're told mentality, including in parenting, right? Do it because I said it. This is the model. Whoever wants to do that, you have a choice to do what you want. I have a choice to what I want, and I don't want to do that, okay? So for me, I looked into democratic disciplining because I do have a strong-willed Scorpio child. Not only did I not want to say no to her for everything, or the whole spanking, out of fear, I want her to do something because she wants to. She has respect for me. I want her to do that because because she respects me, not because she's fearful of me. Okay, that was just me. And so I learned the difference, while it was frustrating as well to learn another speaking style. There's a difference between saying walk and don't run, right? Even just using that word don't. When we would go shopping places, just another example, if I take you out of the cart, right? If I take you out of the cart and you don't stay right by me, you're going back in the cart. Okay, I'm going to give you, of course you got to follow up. I told you I'm not perfect and things like that, but like that is just an example. And then immediately you need to put them back in there. So being able to talk to them like that, and also giving them a choice. And so I did that from a very young age. Okay. And, I've always it's not looked for alternatives, but I kind of always was like that. I never went to like drugs or alcohol. So even in parenting, I was like, oh my God, this is why people drink and smoke. Like totally, right? But then you wake up and have the same problem every day. So you would just continue to drink, right? You didn't solve the problem. So for me, I was always problem solver like that. I didn't use things. I didn't manage with those things, you know? And reading from a very young age and into self-help and Buddhism and all of that stuff, philosophy of living, younger, okay? Not using force and things like that. That's why it sounds like oxymoron when you hear me talk about self-defense, because it is violence, but I'm using it with discretion. You know, Buddhism doesn't teach you how to assert yourself. It teaches you how to be compassionate. So I learned how to blend the two, right, as needed. And Buddhism didn't empower me in the way self-defense does, right? Okay. So when you look at this model, especially with that example, do you think that freedom of thinking is involved here, right? When you're being told and reprimanding what you can and can't do, ask yourself that, you know, look at those models, because a lot of people have been using them and continue to use them. They don't really think about it, right? Especially when you get mad, it's really easy to want to, you know, of course, get violent. And it's something too that our culture kind of just does. It takes a lot of thought to work at something out and speak, even in relationships. Why aren't we taught about conflict resolution skills at a younger age? I don't get it. I think that's where we're supposed to, you know, evolve. So, in my opinion, I would think we would be at that place. So there's rules and guidelines, right? Even in religion or whatever it is, guiding us here and there, okay? And I believe in that in a sense, but I still believe in using discernment and free choice, and that I do want to do what I want to do. I don't want somebody else setting these limits for me. But, you know, when we're growing up, it would be chaos. So I just used other ways, right? So democratic disciplining is something, just because you're using it on your kids, you can find out as an adult other ways to incorporate it. Okay, that's a mouthful. I hope that you followed again. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself now, even though I didn't pause before in asking you about all of this freedom talk, do you feel like you need to get approval or acceptance from others for your decision makings? I know I did, because my dad made all my decisions for me, okay? So that carried into me, like with me as an adult. Okay, do you feel there are rules you need to live by? Are they your rules or somebody else's? Okay, I want you to ask yourself this, because you will, over time, if you're not asking yourself, I think I asked this maybe about 22 or something, that, wait a minute, are these my thoughts or somebody else's? Well, I don't believe that to be true, you know? So ask yourself if you haven't asked already. One of the best things a few weeks ago, one of my best friends said is so simply, it's funny, the brain is a computer. If you don't program it, somebody else will. Makes sense, right? But with great things like neuroplasticity, if you look that up, that helps us. I feel like that is more of an evolution out of hypnosis that works really easily, and you can do it yourself. Okay, people? So again, getting approval, why we need to dig deep on this stuff, and why this is why I want you to see about how important self-worth is in setting a foundation for what you can and can't accomplish in life, including creating the reality that you want, okay? So these are some questions. Maybe they're different now. I don't think it's changed so much, but these are examples of what I would consider that these are other people's expectations based on the way the questions are asked, okay? Are you going to college? And do you have a girlfriend or boyfriend? When are you getting married? When are you giving me grandchildren? Okay? So these are the things that affect our ability to choose for ourselves, because depending on who you're talking to, you might adapt your answer, right, for fear of being rejected, which I will give you a bonus at the end, how to deal with this situation, how to address, how to look at it differently on love. So I want you to ask yourself, do you agree with me that these could be expectations, right, of you? When you are asking yourself, like we just said, if this is your mom, your dad, or whatever, would you modify this? Would you modify it? Or would you just speak your mind? Now, granted, there's a lot of people born with a strong sense of self, like my husband. They have no problem speaking their mind or whatever, whatever it is. And so they would not care about this sort of stuff at all, okay? But then a person like that, I've realized, has had to learn how to be compassionate and also how to answer with compassion, right? Okay. Black sheep talk. Okay, so speaking up, you have a hard time speaking up, you think differently, you don't follow the crowd, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, that was me, sense of belonging. I'm here to tell you it is okay to feel like that, be a black sheep. There are other people like you. I feel like I have become an expert at this because I know what it's like from being a teenager, growing up in Pennsylvania from the beginning. Okay, so not only I liked different types of music and dressed different, I just knew I was different. I had masculine pen pals. I was being raised by my dad, which is another show given to him by my narcissistic mother. She didn't love me. I had abandonment issues there, right? So no sense of belonging, okay? In Pennsylvania, it's not really embraced to be half Thai and Asian, okay? So the media is, I'm feeling rejected. I don't look like the blonde, white, skinny. My body is inadequate. Long story, okay? I already felt like that from a young age, outside the box. I was more concerned with my social activism. I wasn't dreaming about the $20,000 wedding and the picket fence and the soccer mom lifestyle with the minivan. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just wasn't my focus. And that was the focus around me. Okay, so again, outside the box, not conventional, not following the trend, not liking pop music, And so that's why you'll hear me say why Minor Threat is one of the bands that highly influenced me and was a support system. Even to this day, I can always go back and refer to them, okay? So you can look them up. A punk rock band from the early 80s, supported individualism, and all this stuff that you will hear me talk about with punk rock music and what they sang about, and I actually listened to the lyrics. So music was one of my most important foundations that helped me feel sense of belonging. Okay, they don't look at, Ian does not, he was on my show, he doesn't look at that as like him starting anything. He was just being himself. In the 70s when everybody else was out partying and drinking, okay? So that was his way of expressing himself, that he didn't like it and he wasn't going to do it. So when you become empowered, I'm going to give you these examples right now, just of the language that I used and the thought process, okay? So just being able to speak up to well, let's back it up to the first thing. When I met my husband, we were having some different issues that weren't changing, right? With his drinking. And so basically I said, right, that's fine if you're going to be like that, but I'm not going to be with you. Okay. That's when he made the choice. And what that says to me, not only it takes a lot of balls for me to say that, but also just, having the guts to say that, but it's okay if you are, okay. That's not for me. But I still had the sense of losing him. So that is an example. Speaking up, again, like my daughter's school principal, where maybe I would have repressed something, right? But now, or I have said this before, I said it firmer when I wanted to address a teacher who had grabbed a student's arm, just even following up. So are you going to do anything about that? It's something I just would have repressed, or I thought, maybe somebody else is going to take care of it. And I just look at it like, what are you going to do? Kick us out? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Remember, because I came from that fear-based thing, just the whole thing, like, what are you going to do if I speak up? Are you going to put me in jail? Like, I don't know. I think it's the same thing that I thought, though, with cops looking as an authority figure, and not knowing my rights and things like that, which I will tell you your Bill of Rights another time. So a lot of, even I should have started with that. Okay, so in case you're overwhelmed, this is why I say verbal and physical self-defense 6 months right now, because hands down, that's gonna really get you far, okay? And if you really like it, you will go all the time and feel good. but I can and I will. You can start with that first mindset and listening to Nora talk. Okay, so this is again still diving deep into self-worth. Okay, I have to drink water. Okay, brace yourself for this. Outside worth, how am I going to explain to you guys, right? Because you don't really know, is that the outside sources have a part, they play a part in how we feel about ourselves and our worth in the world, okay? So that means how we look on the outside, material things that we own, and sex can be included in there, okay? In terms of outside sources, when we don't have it, when we don't get it, if these certain things, right? Material possession, and then go into cars, houses. Oh, when I have that fat diamond ring or whatever, I'm going to be happy. We were talking about that not being a final destination place. Okay, all these sorts of things that you think you come from outside there. So what I want to do, I'm going to just give you a really short story, okay, of part of my story. And then I'm sure that I will tell you again in the future. And this is the part of me being hypnotized by physical beauty. Okay, remember how I just backed it up and I told you about growing up? Well, I had two friends, one of which was always with a guy 24/7. She's very pretty, big ass, titties, all that stuff. And then I had another friend who also was pretty. She was just cooler than me, better writer, better artist, more creative, everything, who I kind of looked up to. And I realized this when I stopped getting hypnotized at 30. It went away, the power and control, and this is why that I can talk about this now, is that because one, right, I wanted to be friends with them, and I thought, oh, if they're friends with me, you know, I must be cool. And also that I wanted to know what it was like to feel like them and get that attention. But guess what? Not only I didn't get the attention, the whole thing just didn't work. So that did not help me at all, okay? So I saw my worth in that and what is beautiful, okay? And envious of it. So that is the example there, shortened version, okay? Now I want to talk about another outside thing. If you would like me to address, I would love to address it. I could talk about this all day long. Is that the outside influence, okay, of sex, whether you're getting it or not getting it or whatever it is, and then the culture perpetuating the whole part of it in a relationship, because we're looking at our relationships in our life. I just talked about with my two friends. Now I'm talking about sex with your romantic partner or whoever it is, okay? What they're not taking account and judging others is, okay, if you're not having sex enough, you know, if they're not banging you, they're banging somebody else. There must be a problem. There must be an issue there. And they're not even looking at the deep love that can be involved in that situation. So again, the teaching, all of us, that it is about sex and all about sex and all of this sort of stuff. You don't know the person's situation, the couple, maybe there's a medical condition, maybe there's menopause, all these sorts of things, okay? So for in my own life of just judgment with the male friends and romantic relationships, we're going there, is that for me in particular, I don't relate to that whole world just because I've grown up with male pen pals again and friends and all of this sort of stuff. It doesn't mean that my husband loves this. He just has to accept that I have the platonic male friendships, and it's a part of what helps me keep me mentally sane, okay? So it's tomboy attitude. All right, so I have felt judgment around that. So the reason that I wanted to bring that up is that because, again, it's outside the box and black sheep feeling I have had, okay? And this is why I can talk about this sort of stuff, is that there's more to life. There's more. It's not always about banging. And to me, the value in friendship is very important because, again, I told you, I know what it's like to feel alone and I know what it's like to want to die, okay? A lot of people don't know this about me, and I could cry about it because this is what is meaningful to me, okay? Value in friendships and relationships, but not seeing those things as being all of our worth is what I'm saying, getting our worth. The worth is the value in the friendship, with me, okay? I wanted to give you this example here because I think it's important for people to see and hear that there are other things in life, okay? Sex is a very temporary feeling, okay? So, of course, something enjoyable, but people get to that first, sometimes before they get to know somebody, and so our culture focusing around this being our whole life, again, somebody outside making us happy. Maybe it sounds like I went around about there, but it was important, I think, for you guys to just see. I value friendships, okay? So there's much more that we can talk about that, like I just said, about outside sources. And again, like I said with the friends, now I'm somebody, now they'll want to be friends with me in that lesson and thinking about how it looks to me. That's why it's important being spiritual and to connect with myself, because when I go, or when I went into that thinking, to be able to go in and love myself, that, you know, I'm not ever going to look like them, I'm not ever going to be them. All these things you might hear from people that you kind of don't understand, or maybe don't find out till you get, you know, later in life. So, looking at it all as lessons. So, boundary setting is something I'll talk about in the next episode, and why it is so important. That also can be a very exhausting subject matter, but I will try to break it down really simply for you. Personal uniqueness right now, what I'd like you to do, I didn't have you, so this is part of the outside sources, right? So I want you to look at how to make yourself feel more unique, so you aren't looking and comparing to others, you aren't looking for all those sorts of things. We are trying to find fulfillment inside and loving ourselves, right, for who we are. So we need to embrace those things. How do we embrace them? I want you to write a list right now of the things that physically make you beautiful to you. Maybe something not seen in the mainstream. Okay, so for me, it was a long neck, my nose, not having any boobs, my hips were too big. What else? All sorts of things. So that was my mess of a perception about myself, okay? So I had to embrace those things about me as being unique, and also understanding, you know, there's lots of different kinds of beautiful. Nowadays, I'm sure you know, I don't know anymore that it's necessarily any one look, but sometimes I still think it's the blonde hair and blue-eyed still. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that. Okay, we are wrapping it up. Okay, managing yourself and with others, right? Unless you're going to live in a cave, we got to deal with these different people. But remember, looking at them as being helping teachers to teach you lessons and make you look at yourself, just like the beautiful people, right? Makes us look at ourselves. I hope. So learning skills in order to help us manage others, conflict resolution skills, human behavior, judgment, negative human traits, looking at all of these issues to kind of try to overcome, I feel like, I know it to be as the shadow self, okay? So managing our life with others, I feel like the more I almost want to say the more I understand others, the more I understand myself. It could be vice versa, but I feel like that's how I do a lot of my studying, right, in the different friendships, and learning a lot about how people they have different ideas of what love is, and some of them don't even know what it is. It's really interesting. So I want to ask you, again, if this is something that you want to journal on, is that, you know, what is a different approach you can take in your life, you know, moving forward and after this video, right? It could just be watching more videos. It could be booking an appointment with me. It could be doing some things on this list, okay? But if I give you the list, it's going to sound overwhelming. So just know there is something, right? You can always ask me later. You can refer back to this video, okay? So for me, first and foremost, it was opening my mind, because I was a snob in my punk rock world. And then when I had a boyfriend in Illinois, basically he opened me up to Brazilian bossa nova music and trying so many different types of food. Even though I had Thai before, I never had Indian, I never had Ethiopian. And food, all of that sort of stuff, and then meeting my husband and four-wheeling, which I associate with rednecks. Just being open. That's what it took, and be willingness to learn, like I said, and maybe liking what you hear me talk about on here. Okay, so what I want to do is really quickly to end on this. We already said, right, can and will mindset. You can also, this is very basic, I didn't tell you this yet, commit to yourself by when you wake up in the morning, roll over, put your hand on your heart, and tell yourself that you love yourself, okay? And it would even be more magnificent if you bought yourself a single rose and you could just put it on your pillow. Okay, so we talked about music. There's other bands. You can ask or refer to the website later. Okay, so this is the fun part I did not talk about. Okay, maybe you're a movie person, right? I talked a little bit about martial arts, calmness, composure, all of the discipline and the mindset. Okay, one of my favorite movies, The 36th Chamber of Shaolin. Anything by the Shaw brothers is magnificent. The quality and remastered stuff. And of course the follow-up is Return to 36th Chamber. Okay, if you're a movie person, if you're a book person or Audible or whatever it is, let's be psychic right now. If you already are into personal growth, let's be a psychic game and see if you knew that I was going to put this up. Because this is a very popular book out there when it comes to personal growth forever. It's old, I don't know, it might be even 10 years, and he has a whole collection, okay? The 4 Agreements. Now, this magnificence, Verbal Judo. You could be overwhelmed if you try to really seriously study this, but just a few things, and especially the intro I love because it talks about Mushin, the still center. And I love that, talking about the samurai mindset. So that's going to talk about persuasive talk, okay? And he was a former cop. Okay, another magnificence, the power of your subconscious mind. If you have not studied it yet, and you start understanding how much this affects our constant everyday living. Okay, and lastly, okay, 4th book. I really want to give you another one, but I'm going to put this one up, okay? Because this is about creating your desires, okay? This is different because it's actually talking about frequencies, and that may be different to some of you. I was already familiar with energy medicine and vibrational medicine through flower essences like this in my library here, floral acupuncture. There may be some references, I think, maybe to the use of the word God. So if any of you are sensitive, this is what I like to say, okay? You can replace it with something else or whatever it means to you. Utilize it how you want, because I pick and choose. Because there's a lot of books that I've read where they do make references to that because that is their belief system, okay? Buddhism for me is a philosophy of life, and I just pick and choose what I want, okay? So, there are many other books, but I just wanted to go over those with you. I think that's quite enough. That's 4 of them. Okay, so I think I just want to finish with this, okay? I was going to give you a bonus right now regarding love and unconditional love, and a long story, an example statement. But I feel like I just want to say that, again, I never really understood the difference between conditional and unconditional, even when people explained it to me. Okay, I got to give you the example. If somebody says, your parent or somebody you care about, right, they're asking you that question, are you going to get married? When are you going to get married and give me grandchildren, right? And you don't want to do that. And you tell them that, and they get mad at you and aren't talking to you for weeks. Is this being loving? Okay, I want you to ask yourself this, because this is a clear example to me, is that you are putting conditions, the parent is putting conditions on the child because you are basically rejecting me. You're mad and not talking to me because I am not doing what you're doing. I don't agree with you and all of that. Okay, so I want, because there are so many things I can talk about, I want you to think about these things and the influences, again, like I said, from others around us, and again, the concepts taught by our culture. And love is also another thing that they have shown us their model and way of being. Their romantic relationship, the focus on that in our culture, right? If you are not in one, you suck. There must be something wrong with you. That's the feeling that I get from it. And then the whole other things that you will learn along the way when you are in a relationship that take a very long time to understand, and you're in one and yet you're getting jealous of somebody else talking to somebody else is the best example, right? Like even with me, again, with the male friends. So how is that showing love if you were saying you can't talk to somebody? Like, okay, just don't do it in front of me. Like, you have to get to this point, and I totally understand, again, which is why I can speak on this. It's because of the things that we have been taught. And I look at it and I want to get really mad and angry about it, but people are just doing what they are doing, their best from their own stories. But as a culture, because of the media and everything like that, they influence these ways of thinking for us. If you look and had to define love for yourself right now on your piece of paper, if you're not too tired of listening to me talk, write down what that means to you. What does it mean to be loving? And I really get excited and passionate, and going back to telling you about the romantic relationship thing, because it's so much of our life is our relationships with others. And I just think if we were more free in ourselves and taught these certain things, male-female friendships, how healthy the bond is. And that's how I grew up. That's why I said it's part of my mental health, and the masculinity and the music and the everything, So I want to be accepted for being who I am. And relationships and value in friendships is important to me, okay? So that's why I wanted to really stress and focus and sharing personalness with you, okay? So we are going to end, okay? We are going to end right now. And I will see you in the next video that's going to be about assertiveness, and you can read about it more. But I thank you so much for your patience in listening to me run my mouth. And please check out my episodes. Right now, I am doing a first responder series, depending on when you listen to this, but it is June of 2020, still going on during corona pandemic issues that we are coming to an end with. And I've been working on this series for about a year. It's just finally coming out now. So if it's something that you think, I think the public would enjoy as well, to hear personal inner struggles of these people that, help take care of us every day. A lot of stuff that we don't know. So we need to give them more credit every day, other than giving them baked goods and parades every 10 years. Okay, and we have no idea even what the amount of work that paramedics do. And so that is episode number 1. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to talk again. Thanks.